We're gonna need to be super quiet to hear her.
I'll try to yell.
A good effort. All right. And all right, and we're live and we got folks. How many folks do we have online?
We've got 6 online.
Okay, we've got 6 online on the webinar. We've got, I don't know, 20-ish in person. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm gonna hand it over to Amy to welcome everyone.
Yes, thanks everybody for being here. I'm sorry I'm masked up tonight, trying to deal with a little pesky little cold that I've got. But yeah, tonight we are here to talk about the Recreation and the Outdoors Management Plan. As I think most of you have maybe gleaned from the posters that we have up. This is a project to work on aligning our vision for managing recreation in the outdoors. And outdoor recreation is something that happens in Clear Creek County, and it is something that brings in tourism, it brings in revenue, it also brings in challenges and impacts to our ecology and our natural resources. And the last year has been spent trying to build alignment, so all the different organizations that are out there working on this can work together and have a vision, a path, a set of goals that we can use to move forward together on. And that's what this plan is about. That's what recreation management is about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go through a slide deck that reviews the material that a group of community members and subject matter experts and industry leaders and representatives of various land managers across the county have been discussing and working on for the last year. Did I miss anything?
I think that's about it.
Okay.
All right, cool. So I'll go ahead and bring my screen back up. All right, and get that out of the way. All right, so the Clear Creek County Recreation and the Outdoors Management Plan. The idea was to develop a plan for recreation and to align a lot of different thoughts around recreation, around conservation within the boundaries of Clear Creek County. As you saw from the map on one of the signboards here, the actual Clear Creek County owned territory is a tiny percentage of the total public land that's within the boundaries. And one of the purposes of the plan was kind of to align our thoughts and goals for the entire territory within the boundaries of the county. So with that in mind, we brought a group together, and this was we engaged the community, a collection of stakeholders, and the agencies involved in managing the public land. Early on in the process, starting about a year ago, we came up with this purpose and vision for the plan. I'm just going to read it out because it does encapsulate where we were headed. The Clear Creek County Recreation and the Outdoors Management Plan, which I'll call the ROMP from now on, creates an aligned vision for outdoor recreation that enriches local communities and welcomes a diverse range of visitors in a way that protects and improves the integrity of the area's natural and cultural resources for the long term. The negotiation that went into that included both enriching local communities, so we intend to do that, as well as welcoming a diverse range of visitors, which we already do. But in order and tries to make that balance, as well as both protecting and improving the natural and cultural resources. So those are the important parts of that vision. The process that we went about with this is represented on this timeline. I know, especially for those in the room, this is kind of small no matter what screen you're looking at. But up at the top, we've got the Board of County Commissioner meetings that have taken place over the past year. We had periods of research. That was the second line here. Clear Creek County brought on Keystone Policy Center, which is who I represent. I'm Jonathan Gertz with Keystone Policy Center to manage the process, and also SE Group to manage the planning side of things. Early on in the process, SE Group reviewed a lot of the management plans in the area and did actually kind of a comprehensive analysis, developed a lovely report that we have available to us that summarizes the main conclusions of that, and it helped to inform where we went early on in the public engagement process. We had an interagency group meet that was comprised of federal, state, and local landowners, as well as municipalities, to sort of guide the process. We had a planning partners team, which was comprised of local stakeholders representing different recreational and landowning interests. And we had a community advisory team that we engaged periodically through the process, which is comprised of folks who are a little bit more distant from recreation specifically, but have identity in the community, and engage them periodically to make sure that we weren't doing things, we weren't missing things along the way. And then last but not least, we've engaged two major engagement points on the Clear Creek Forum website, which is still live, still welcoming public comment at the moment by means of a survey. Feel free to go there if you do have more in-depth comments that you'd like to share. Then we could be encapsulated on a post-it note in this open house. So trying as best as we can over the course of a year to engage as many people in parallel conversations as possible to develop the document that we now got in our draft form. In green, towards the end of this timeline, is the finalization of this draft. Again, this draft is in draft phase. We drafted it based on the input from all of these groups over the summer. And now we're going to finalize that draft based on all the input we received in the last month, and bring it before the Board of County Commissioners late in the year with the goal of having it finally published by the end of the calendar year and start doing the things that we've projected we're going to do in the coming year. So early on in the process, the planning partners team came up with a set of goals. These goals sort of expand upon the mission, again, protecting natural and cultural resources, protecting an authentic mountain culture, high quality of life for residents. There's that residential side of things again, vibrant local economy, a wide variety of high quality recreational opportunities that attract from a wide range of uses, resilient recreational amenities that can handle increased visitation as it comes, and a clearly communicated expectation that visitors will plan ahead to recreate safely and responsibly. That communication, that expectation setting was always a part of the plan from the beginning. All right, so in order to further undergird this, a lot of this, the previous ones emphasized the human aspect. We wanted to emphasize the conservation and sustainability aspect of the plan right up front, and this sort of serves as the foundation for all of the rest of the priorities, which is why in our handy diagram here, it sort of serves as that foundation piece. And so whatever actions come out of these priorities, they will go through the lens of conservation and sustainability. It's the intent of the structure. So anything that is used to any management that is used to manage existing and introduce new opportunities should emphasize conservation, available resources, specific needs, best practices, etc. Prioritize management of existing amenities before considering new amenities, and be clear about why we need new amenities if they are proposed, so that they have a solid rationale behind them. And then again, making sure that it underlies everything else that's in the plan. All right, let me get this out of the way again. So trail systems, actually, let me move that down to the bottom here. Yeah, it's going to stay where it's going to stay. All right, so we've got three priorities related to trail systems because trails are such an integral part of recreation in the county. And so we've got in sort of prioritized by the group and by the conversations, these high use trailheads and high use areas. We know them, the ones where they're seeing a lot of pressure, the ones where you get parked up along the roadways, the ones where we're crossing from county roads to Forest Service to this and that and the other. These high use entry points are going to get attention with that first key strategy. The second key strategy takes that, or actually, no, sorry, that's the second key strategy. The first key strategy is to make sure that we have a holistic picture of the entire trail network. And to make sure that, again, proposals to add trails, to add amenities only take place when you've considered whether it adds to the full trail network and not in isolation. The second one focuses on those super high use trailheads. And the third one focuses on specific uses, particularly in OHV management plans, since that's the intersection of a lot of tension in this county at this point. The group definitely prioritized that, saying we need to have some kind of vision for what we're going to do. Whatever it means, what we're going to do with motorized recreation in the county. Second priority, river access and recreation. This one is focused on rafting because that's the primary use that we see now, but open to additional uses such as angling. Some of the key strategies that underlie this, again, evaluating, again, taking a holistic picture of rafting and recreation in the county, saying, can we align permitting? Can we make access easier? Can we coordinate between jurisdictions better since those access points are managed in different ways? And can we mitigate the environmental impacts that we're seeing to Clear Creek at this point? Destination and visitor management. This is where we emphasize responsible tourism, emphasize know before you go kind of messaging, emphasize if you're coming to Clear Creek, prepare to respect Clear Creek. And that's our first strategy. The second one is kind of getting more holistic about incorporating transportation into recreation. Can people come up here on mass transit rather than everyone coming in their individual car? And once they get up here, can they get to the trailhead they want to get to? And therefore, can we reduce some of the parking headaches that are currently in the county? Recreation economy planning. This one is about balancing local quality of life with economic improvement and trying to make it sustainable and growing sector within the county. Again, identifying models of balanced local and tourist culture and evaluating creating recreational opportunities and trying to balance all those things, the ecological, the socioeconomic, sustainability, cultural, community strength, doing it in a responsible way that retains, again, that sense of mountain culture that we so value with Clear Creek County. Wanted to spend a little bit of time on how we intend to do this. This is not written in stone. It's meant to be a useful document. And in order to be useful, it needs to be adaptable to emerging circumstances. And so there are ongoing collaborative elements to this. The interagency team that met over the past year and has been coordinating across boundaries intends to continue meeting and intends to continue evaluating whether the plan meets the current and future needs of the county, adjusting as necessary. And there is an intent to move forward with stakeholder engagement as well, community and stakeholder engagement periodically to make sure that the way that recreation is going in the county is responsive to those who live in the county as well. All right, so future projects. This is where I'm encouraging folks to put more Post-it notes, put more comments on the forum, put more Post-it notes on that future projects board. We had to restrain ourselves because everyone's got their project they want to see on the ground. We had to stay at high level, like, well, how do we want to envision, how do we want to do this holistically? How do we want all these projects to be aligned rather than individually promoted and considered in isolation? Nonetheless, here are some of the future projects that are coming out of it. Again, formalizing that interagency team, management strategies for the high use trailheads and other approach areas, leveraging mapping to get a more holistic view across land jurisdictions within the county of trail systems and of other recreational and resource flows. Creek corridor management, again, aligning the permitting system, aligning access. OHV planning, figuring out what to do with this point of tension within the county, and then visitor management, again, figuring out how to move people around, how to get them to where they need to go, and also how to how to put them in the right mindset so that they can recreate with respect for the land and for the space. Again, already mentioned this, but it is the intent of the interagency team to keep moving, keep going as we take these plans and move towards action from them, and also to continue to engage stakeholders as we engage these project-specific things throughout the plan. So that said, I just ran through all of this material again. It's in more detail in the plan itself, which is available for review. It's actually not that hefty of a read. There's a lot of pictures, and it's very readable. I actually am impressed with what SC Group was managed to do with the drafting on that one. That said, anything next? What would you say as a call to action or next steps on this?
Well, I mean, I think our next steps are to figure out implementation and figure out how to take action on these principles, review them with the various governmental entities, get them adopted, try to get them as integrated and formalized as possible. But what we need from you tonight is if you have any questions or additional input, so we can get a final draft that is complete, that is as community informed as possible. That's the goal. We want this draft to have as much input, as many perspectives included and represented as possible.
Cool. That said, I'd like to open it up for Q&A, both in the room and online. Have we gotten any written comments in?
No, but do we online, we want them to submit it in the chat and I will read them? Is that the plan?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. If you're listening in online, do please write your questions in the chat. We'll try to address them as needed. All right. Any points of clarification or any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Joe Lucas, co-founder of Friends of Clear Creek. My question is, this is great to have this plan developed, but I don't see how we can do this right now when we can't maintain what we already have open, i.e. park rangers, monitors. I mean, when you look at Jefferson County open space in Denver, they've got that pretty much maintained with the county with enforcement and stuff like that. We don't have the money. The Forest Service doesn't have the money. It's great to say, come up here. The OHB clientele that come up here for the 4 or 5 months are self-contained. They bring their food, they bring their beverages, they go up into their location, turn around, come back. We might get a tank of gas out of them or something like that. But the infrastructure for Clear Creek County is not ready to accommodate the expansion. We don't have the hotels. We don't have the adequate infrastructure. I mean, look at Safeway on the weekend during the summertime. We have bike clubs parking in our public parking areas, Safeway, to park their cars, jump on their bike, do their 15-mile tour, come back down, load their bike and drive off. Same with the rafting side of it. It's 4 months. And how many permits and companies do we have operating on Clear Creek here? I know we have 2 of them coming up, bringing their clientele from Denver to the destination and then back. Again, loss of money. So talking about proper tourism, I have 17 years experience dealing with travel and tourism, working for the government for 15 years in Europe. So I would like to see more of a conservation attitude in developing this plan, because you're talking to OHVs that are going to go on town roads to go to a county road that they shouldn't even be on to access the forest, and we can't enforce that.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is really for EMS services, Forest Service, and maintenance and monitoring this wonderful idea. When it comes down to it, where's the money? Where's the ideas that are going to be covered in this plan? It's not even mentioned on that side. I mean, look at the lodging side of it here in Clear Creek County. We don't have a Holiday Inn. We don't have a Comfort Inn. We've got these small little motels, hotels that were built back in the 70s. We still have that 70 concept, and we're not ready for the 2020s. And we know that. So thank you for
Those are
your time.
great comments, Joe.
Thank you.
But this plan is not necessarily an expansion plan. This is a management plan.
Well, we already know we can't manage what we've already got developed because it's overwhelmed by the system.
And that's why, that's part of why we need a
When
management.
you're talking
plan.
about public transportation, I know the Idaho Springs town mayor wants to bring Mustang up here in 3 years every hour for 12 hours a day to bring it up. So theoretically, you're bringing the suburbs up to our mountain community, and our quality of life has already been affected. I mean, just try to buy groceries on Friday at Safeway with all the tourists buying their groceries en route to go to Summit County to stay in their $300 a night condominium.
Exactly, and the things that, we have things that are happening here that we don't necessarily like. And making a plan is not about having more things that we don't like. It's having vision so we can say, what do we like? What do we want? And how do we make it happen? And that's what a management plan gives
I
us the
understand
ability
that. I
to
think
start
I'm
to
being a
do.
little bit more vocal about what we've seen in the last 5 years in developing the Peak to Plain Bikeway, having a bikeway or a way for people to use. They don't even use it. They use Colorado Boulevard sidewalks to skateboard and bicycle on. There's no signage, and that was part of the project, to have adequate signage and everything, and monitoring and promoting social media. And unfortunately, reality is the same thing. We're not prepared for the expansion that we already have here in this county.
And this is part of
And I think the
preparing.
boundaries have
This
been.
is us preparing,
I
Mojo.
understand that. I'm
Okay,
just
good.
saying what we have right now, we can't maintain. So if we take away the boundaries for OHV to buy a permit in Empire, to travel on a county road to go to the forest, national forest, there's a violation. We're encouraging that breaking of the ordinances and laws already, and there's no enforcement. I was a resident and loved Empire to death. And the problem is every time you get those OHVs or the dirt bikes flying,
Totally.
20 minutes is by the time you get a county sheriff or somebody to come up, and guess what? 90% of the time, you're not able to enforce it. So
I
my
agree.
concern is more of the barriers that have already here, a buffer between motorized tourism, and then encouraging more of, I guess, human-powered tourism,
Yeah,
i.e., cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and developing bicycling and stuff like that, and get away from the motorized side of it. So I hope this management plan opens up some other avenues in tourism,
absolutely.
because what we've got going right now, it's not looking good for this plan because we can't enforce what we already got developed. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate your outlining some of the county context, because, and you saw a lot of nodding around the room, because that's a lot of what we've been talking about in the planning partners team as well, and some of the difficulties. And again, as Amy said, just not wanting to stand still and not do anything. We need to do something in order to manage the numbers, whatever combination of strategies that may include. So yeah.
I just want one quick thing. I take the Argo Mill, $45 million invested. Before COVID, the annual visitation was around $50,000. 50,000 visitors in that year or years. Now with the improvements and the addition to promote tourism with the gondola, the bike path, and the lodge up on top, they're hoping to get 400 to 450,000 people at one place. And I counted 19 parking spots in front of the Argo. So guys, let's look at planning and keeping the people here more than 4 to 12 hours. Maybe accommodations. We've got restaurants that are closed. We got empty gift shops. Yeah, I'm just kind of bringing that to the forefront.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's why recreation economy planning ended up becoming one of the pillars. It was like, let's figure out how to get some more income off of the people who already do come up here. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Could we maybe get some copies of the proposal to the visitor centers? Because I'm sure there's gonna be people who that's just flew over their head that this was even happening, that probably have some great inputs to contribute.
Absolutely. We've done a pretty pretty stern job of distributing the draft to the community at this point. And actually, this is kind of the end of the public comment period on this draft. And I'm going to leave the forum site open and the survey open through the next week. But after that, we're gonna come back in and we're gonna make a final copy of this. It'll have the same delightful appearance, and at that point, I think it would be absolutely great to have copies of those at visitor centers and at other informational venues like that. So yeah, that's great. All right, yeah.
Just wondering, excuse me, in developing the plan and the report, what interagencies, what other agencies were involved in that?
So we can list them all off.
So the Forest Service, CPW, Denver Mountain Parks, the towns were all invited. They had different levels of attendance. HDPLC, we had Open Space Commission representatives, the county. Those were the interagency team representatives. On the planning partners team, we had representatives of all the various types of industries, motorsports, cycling, mountain bikes, hiking, 14ers,
Rafting.
And those groups
rafting.
will still be involved going forward as you prepare to.
Yes, but we need to decide and figure out what kind of format that group will have and be. Will it have authority imbued? Will it have a budget associated with it? How exactly are we going to structure it? What is its purpose going to be? How will it relate to the ROMP? There are a few things we have to figure out, and what is the town's interests and the different governmental interests in the ROMP at this time. But it will be something. We'll do something great with it.
Thanks.
Cool.
Yes. Amy, I just heard you use a word that I haven't heard once in this process, budget. And I don't see any planning for financing any of this.
No, well, there is not, this planning process was funded by a grant from GOCO and a match from the county. One of the other things that we hope to do with this planning process is position us to be able to design and come up with more detail to go out to other granting organizations, maybe get additional monies. Most counties and governmental entities rely on grants for a lot of the work that does things like improve and expand recreational amenities or do environmental or ecological work. So, but by having detailed plans and visions for what those things would be, it helps us communicate to a grantor what it might look like, what the benefits would be, and shows that we're serious and we have done our homework and that they should give us money.
Am I hearing you say that at this point, a primary focus for funding is grants?
Yes.
And how do you sustain management in that way? That's that one year there might be many grant opportunities, another year limited. It seems like there ought to be kind of an element to any master planning that incorporates funding sources as well.
It's sort of, that's a little bit iterative as we figure out what the projects are going to be, and because a lot of the type of money that we might need is going to be project specific. Maybe we're going to develop, expand a trailhead at location X. That's a chunk of money that is fairly limited. That has implications for maintenance and staffing to some extent, but not with a ton of zeros.
Amy, I'm not asking you for specifics necessarily. I'm just suggesting that maybe there ought to be a little more emphasis on funding going forward. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a few things from people online. First one we have is, I would appreciate adding a specific bullet in future projects area for non-motorized trails planning management with Floyd Hill, Virginia Canyon Mountain Park, and much needed trail improvements in Clear Creek Ranger District. Clear Creek County will need to focus on natural surface trails for non-motorized crowd. And then the next one is a question. Will any part of this plan be enforceable or is it just a guideline document?
At this point, it's just a guideline document.
Yeah, it, rather than having formal enforcement, I feel like the value and the force of the document was that it was collaboratively developed and therefore it does have broad-based support from those who developed it and were able to contribute to it. So hopefully we're kind of rowing in a similar direction at this point.
We see around surrounding counties like Jefferson County, open space in Denver Park and the Foothills, an adequate plan and trail system and everything like that. Is that also going to be considered and developed as a park ranger or something like that? Because the cost of maintaining and doing everything comes back to the taxpayer anyway. And I don't really see what we already have. We realize we can't keep up with what's here. So I would like to question that side of it also, about the surrounding areas that have a adequate system of security and stuff like that, because we all know once we bring public transportation up here, we're not going to be able to regulate what kind of people are coming up here. And we have the transients and the people like that already. So again, it's not enforceable what's happening right now. And now we're talking this. So I hope that's in consideration, because in all reality, it's going to cost the taxpayers in maintaining, supervising, monitoring. And if that's not part of the plan, it should be.
Well, that's a great point. We may need to get something before the voters to see if there's more money.
Well, EMS services, you're talking about that country. How long does it take Alpine Rescue from Bergen Park to get up to some of these high altitude areas? I mean, look at Winona Pass. We closed it down because of over abuse, neglect, uneducated people and everything, and we closed it down. Now they're migrating to like Bard Creek, into these little areas where they've also destroyed, left furniture, trash, and the whole line there. Who's enforcing it? Not the Forest Service. They don't have enough money to do that, or manpower. So I just want to make you people aware that if we're going to do this, that we're able to have, as residents, a quality of life, knowing that there isn't graffiti painted on the side of the border or whatever. You know, like, leave no trace is a big part of my life as an environmental activist. And I would like to see something developed as part of this plan. If you're going to have this, then you also have to have the monitoring, supervision, cleanup, maintenance, the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
Can I make a clarification here? 'Cause
Sure.
I think there's a little bit, and I really didn't want to say a single word tonight, but I want to make sure that what's emphasized, there are two things I'd like to emphasize right here. There are about 20 people in this room, and there's a limited amount of time. Okay, and so I'd like for all kinds of people to be able to have a voice, because I want to be able to hear those voices tonight. That's why I'm here. And the second thing is that was emphasized a little bit ago, is this is a concept plan to try and wrap, for the county to try to wrap its heads, its arms, its budgets around what we can affect with regard to the problems you're talking about, which is limited. Because there's only about 4,000 or so acres of actual public land that the county itself manages and has any authority and jurisdiction over, but we have relationships with other agencies. They're the ones that are taking care of all those other hundreds of miles of land that we've got here in the county. And what we're really trying to figure out in management can mean putting a gate across the road and saying it's no longer good for this use or that use, or closing something off at a certain time of year seasonally for those very reasons. And when we talk about shuttles, one of the reasons shuttles come up as an example, it popped out of a Menby study that was done that was in Summit County about what to do at Quandary Peak, because they had a parking lot that was full and roads that were full around the parking lot. And they asked for a study to find out what to do about that. What they learned was that instead of building a bigger parking lot, they needed to have more enforcement, and they needed to reduce the amount of parking and put a shuttle in, and then run a shuttle quantity, shuttle capacity that would only deliver the number of people that they wanted to the mountain, so that they could control the number of people on the mountain, have fewer people instead of more people. So when you're talking about having an open-ended planning document, it's about how do we wrap our heads around the problem? So I want to ensure that to you, Mojo, that's, when they're saying this isn't just about bringing more people to do more things and without doing anything about how to handle it. It's about trying to figure out how to handle what we've got first in order to, as you said, primarily make conservation the top thing that we're trying to do, number one, and then figure out how to accommodate people and have reasonable experiences into the future on the land. So I just wanted to, I want to get that clear that this isn't, it shouldn't be considered to be about expansion necessarily. That said, I'd also like to hear what everybody else in the room has to think also.
Thanks.
So conservation, that's what Randy brought up. Sustainability is a very important feature here.
Mm.
And with that, you have the budgeting for enforcement of that, whatever rules and regulations need to be applied to this. And you have interagencies from the Forest Service, which owns 90% of our county, down to a few people here in the county. But the budgeting and the planning for the legal aspects of enforcement is, to me, probably the most important thing that you can present. And the rest of it falls underneath that.
Absolutely. Well taken.
We talk a lot about conservation, enforcement, and ultimately the economy and impact on our lives here, right? We all see, most of us probably don't leave our houses from Friday afternoon until Monday afternoon. There's a ton of money driving through this county. Some of what's driving through is also day trips, and they're not spending any money in Summit County or wherever they're going. And ultimately, I think to afford anything, we have to figure out the economic piece to patrol and educate users. It would be ideal if they're close together, not spread out between. Our trails are all real far apart. People drive a long way on windy 2-lane roads to get to Bierstadt to find out the parking lot's full. And they're not gonna drive back to Denver. They're also not gonna spend any money here. More trailheads that have reasonably dense trail networks with interconnectivity between them so you can get into the backcountry, but it facilitates an ability for a limited number of rangers to educate the public on how the land should be used. And if the trail network is cool enough and dense enough, then people aren't driving from Denver, but people start coming from other places, they'll need hotels. There's no hotels here. I don't think we're gonna get anybody to build a hotel with the promise that like, yeah, no, spend a couple million, we'll build trails. It's all kind of gotta happen together, but right now our public use land that's technically sanctioned is way spread out and not conducive to keeping people's dollars here, which is ultimately gonna pay for the education, the infrastructure, the enforcement, the rest of it. So I would look at like what we've done at Floyd Hill, probably more trails and deeper in the county where people buy more than just gas.
Yeah, I think reducing wasted miles driven was definitely one of the key components, reducing traffic without spending kind of thing.
Yeah.
Enriching the county, enabling the maintenance of our existing things, while at the same time building out the systems like our trail system in a way that can make them more appealing and more interconnected so that our access points make more sense. I think all of that, those are little sort of things. And so thanks for wrapping that all together. Do you have another?
Yes, I do. Are there any plans to limit OHV use in the St. Mary's area? We do not want St. Mary's to have issues such as Empire. The illegal as they are on county roads, use of OHVs at St. Mary's are bad and residents are inundated. We moved up there for peace and quiet and that has gone away. This person says that local OHV owners can be aggressive and him and his wife feel threatened.
So on the OHV topic, that is a topic that we talked about a lot during our planning partners team meetings, and that's why it's a topic that comes up all the time in all different types of circles. It's a very important topic, and we did not make any specific plans about the OHV topic in this project. What we did was recognize that it needs to be discussed, and that means we need to have a forum for discussing it. We need to set the groundwork for discussing it. We need to be able to have discussions where we can hear each other and talk to each other and not argue about it, not fight about it, not get mad at each other about it, because it's a heated topic. It's a topic that causes conflict, that stops conversations before it gets started. It's a hard conversation. It's mired in all sorts of other conflicts and assumptions, and it's challenging, but we have to find a way to talk about it together. And one little step we can take is get some basic agreements that we need to talk about it. That's a very basic, small step, but it's going to be hard to figure out how to talk about it together, and we can't be judging each other about it, and that's going to be hard. But that's all we did in this in the planning partners team meeting, was agree that it's a topic that we need to discuss. There are problems with it. We have rules that we're not enforcing. We have places where it's causing conflict and problems, putting people in danger. People are having difficulties in all sorts of different ways. And so we need to find a way to talk about it together. That's what we decided. That's what we came out with in our project. And that's what we're going to try to figure out how to do moving forward. But no conclusions were made. This is not a secret plot to grow OHV use or to make OHV use illegal or anything like that. It's a project to try to manage the recreational use of OHVs that's taking place in our county and make it safe, peaceful, make it work. Peter.
One more question regarding the east end of the county, which is where we live. To what extent are those lands being looked at as part of this planning process?
Very little. We did not spend a lot of time talking about it. Other than just the fact that it's, a lot of those are public lands that are Forest Service and other bigger groups like Denver Mountain Parks. Denver Mountain Parks participated really actively in the process, which was great. And that was excellent. But we did not spend a great deal of time talking about really any specific area. We mostly talked about the big picture and what are the different ways that groups should work together and could work together. So while we didn't talk specifically about that area, in a lot of ways, we didn't really talk about any specific area. The one specific area we talked about was winter in Georgetown. We did spend some time talking about that area. But other than that, can you remember any specific areas that we talked about?
Yeah, I don't think any specific areas ended up in the plan. Whenever we talked about them, we talked about them as examples of greater trends and needs for attention and needs for planning and needs for, whatever these high level actions are that would end up drilling down and saying, yes, this trailhead needs a bathroom, that one needs more parking, that one needs a shuttle, or something like that. So.
Yeah, I think, again, our recreation environment in Clear Creek County is, divided is kind of the wrong word, but it's divergent. There's islands and different groups doing different work, and the goal of this project was to just really create a framework that everybody could use to plan from and to operate from. And hopefully we can continue to operate and do more planning in coordinated ways and stay really coordinated and work together. And if we can't, at least we have a coordinated plan to work from and be, singing from the same songbook going forward. And that will help make it a little easier to find the money that Mojo's talking about, or to solve some of the problems with OHVs and to start solving some of these problems little by little, because we spent some time talking about all the problems that we have and identified them together. And sounds kind of cheesy, but it is really true. I think that you gain, you gain by doing that. You gain by doing that, and you start to build connection.
Yeah, I think for me, the goal of this planning process was to make sure that we're not neglecting anything big, that we've got a sense of the whole picture, and we've got some sense of prioritization and direction. And so we can say, right, here's what we're going to work on next. And then that'll tell us something else that will inform what we do after that. So that's I think the value that I see in this plan.
Yeah, I just raised it just to kind of flag the issue just for future examination.
Absolutely.
That sounds like it's picking up for the future projects.
Makes sense. Try to put that up.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I don't see much in the way of wildlife being talked about in here. You know, you had CPW. So what are some of the concerns that are being, I mean, is there anything in that talking about wildlife?
I think there are some aspects that are embedded under the conservation principles. There are some aspects that are embedded under the impacts of high-use trailheads and things like that. It's present, but it's not an overwhelming mention. I think it's mostly in the conservation principles that making space and prioritizing wildlife when considering new projects and the effects of expansions is in there.
I mean, they already are having impact from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, I haven't heard of any collisions with deer and ATVs or something, but, you know, I'm sure there's been near misses because I've had them in my car.
Yeah.
So,
We have one in George, I'm just driving in.
We did?
Well, you were just crossing the road.
Yeah,
I like
so, and, you know, they're there always around us and, you know, the noise is taking them away from the OHVs and, you know, I know that there's bicyclists out there, you know, that are, you know, coming around the corner really fast and they could run into an elk or a deer too. And what? Oh, yeah. So, you know, it's just something that should be in there, the idea of, you know, any improvements need to, increase to the area, should all have wildlife involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say was about your agencies, interagencies, that are involved. So there's like CPW, Forest Service, right? Those people how does that work in the plan as far as like, how are they coming in and helping us other than the initial setup of the plan? Because like we've been talking about, there's not a lot of money for mitigation and monitoring and, you know, whatever. So are we doing something the Forest Service or the CPW should be doing? And would the county be paying for something like, you know, that they should actually be paying for? Like any kind of monitoring of the, you know, or enforcement or anything like that?
No, I mean, no. There are, like, the county does some money for some work that the Trails crew does on Forest Service lands, and we've made some progress there to get specific agreements on how that works, but this whole process improved our relationship with the Forest Service, and so that's on the up, that's improving, that's a good thing. But no, I mean, that's one of the things that as we move forward, we'll have to identify that distinction, right? Groups like CPW, the Forest Service, and Denver Mountain Parks are land managers who operate in our county, but they have like these big organizations behind them. So they have a different role, right? Their relationship to the ROMP and to our county and to the land in our county is different than the county itself or groups that are wholly and solely operating in the county. And so as we move forward, we'll just have to work differently with the different land managers, depending on their relationship to the land and how their organizations operate.
Yeah, I
It's
feel like,
just a reality, you know.
I feel like the major transition that I've witnessed in the course of this planning has been that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I got the feeling that that interaction between the land managers was kind of very project specific or emergency specific. You know, if something emerged, something raised the priority that, oh, you need to talk with your partners, with your adjoining landowners, and they do it for that moment and not otherwise. And what this started was the interagency team. The power of that is visiting in between and preparing for things, coordinating on things, leveraging each other's resources in a way that means you're not duplicating things or going across purposes. And that you've got maybe efforts to coordinate policy, effort, volunteers, whatever, across the different jurisdictions.
That'd be great to, you know, with the increase of people that have come into our area here, it'd be great to have volunteerism increase as well with some of those people. I know there's a girls' Jeep club that does some cleanup up Bard Creek, but other than that, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything around that, you know, I mean, that would be really appreciated, you know, trails building or maintenance or anything like that.
Yeah.
For the people that use them.
Yeah.
She brings up a good point. My name is Richard Jaeger. She brings up a good point with the volunteers. That I know there's a lot of volunteer groups that happen within the county, and I know the Colorado for Girls that they clean up Bard Creek and Hidden Wilderness Road, which is above Montaigne, kind of between Idaho Springs and Evergreen. And I know that they do a lot of volunteer stuff for the 14ers, so that could be the best thing that comes out of this whole meeting and this whole you know, meeting about meetings is better coordination between the volunteer organizations to making more things happen.
Yeah.
You know, that if we all want to see things happen, that we could be like, hey, let's get people together, which of course is something that we could do independently with any forum, but this could be a better forum to do it and to get all those forums together, right?
I like it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Oh, anything else
I just
online?
wanted to
Yeah,
say,
no, go ahead.
sorry, thanks guys for all your hard work. I know you guys put in a ton of time, and a lot of other groups and people have done it as well. I know that there's that big challenge between conservation and recreation and expansion of recreation. And we have to be so careful as we move forward, because the priority for management needs to be our community, the people that live in this county. The people that live in this county because they like quiet recreation. They like the wildlife. They like to see the elk and the moose on their properties. You know, so we need to be really careful, because if we open Pandora's box in whatever realm, the one I'm thinking of is expansion on OHVs. You open a Pandora's box and let that just explode into our backcountry, on our county roads, all that kind of thing. You can't, it's hard to throw it back in the box. The example I think of is Moab. Moab is in the process of negating 300 miles of Jeep and OHV roads because of the destruction to the environment. They've gone huge with Jeeps, OHVs, mountain bikers, hikers. We all love Moab if you've been down there. But now they're dealing with some major consequences to what they allowed. So for my input, as a citizen here in the county that have had roots in this county for 50 years, please, we need to be really cautious. And it needs to be focused on community, and recreation will come, tourism will come, but is what is best for the people that our tax dollars are here, our hearts are here. And that's where the focus needs to be.
Expanding on that, you guys are doing a great job, especially considering the resources available and the fact that we are a county of only 10,000, which is smaller than Jeffco's smallest city. So
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Have you guys looked at the other rural mountain communities like Marble that said, yeah, ATVs and OHVs, and now they've got a problem with private space and usage, over usage, that they regret that decision in trying to make that retroactive, even Green County, when they pass their ATV and stuff like that. I mean, we are convenient being so close to Denver and everything. I hope we have those little boundaries and those cells for protection and separate recreation and our quality of life. It's our front yard and our backyard.
Absolutely. I would guess that the OHV management plan we've recommended would consider other cases in developing a recommendation for how to manage OHVs.
And in the plan, we do recommend looking at other communities just in general to get input from them on what works and what doesn't. And just a reminder, there's nothing in this plan that recommends expanding anything recreation user group wise at all. There's no recommendations or anything in particular in this plan. This is a plan that identifies prioritizing trail systems and prioritizing our creek access and prioritizing visitor management and prioritizing recreation economy planning. That's as far as we've gotten here. And then we need to build on those with community informed processes that let us do that in a way that helps us get in front of and manage the recreation and tourism that's happening in our county, that's threatening our natural landscape, our natural resources. But ultimately, I mean, I think, Margie, to your point, and to the point that other people have said here, Clear Creek County is a place worth protecting. And that's one of the things that having a management plan for recreation will help us do. It's a place worth protecting. Having a good plan for all the recreation that is coming is a tool for protecting our county and protecting the place that we live. That's what we're trying to do here.
I want to take a moment, a couple of comments came in online.
This one just saying, Colorado Mountain Bike Association is always looking for new volunteers to maintain trails. This one also says, Hidden Wilderness has a community, maybe also approach them as volunteers. That area is having some issues with campers that aren't necessarily campers. And then they also commented on the Moab saying Moab has just closed 5 major trails to Jeepers and all. So just kind of some comments on what you guys were talking about.
Sure. Appreciate that. Yeah.
This may be too into the weeds, but we just went to a whole bunch of national parks and we're blown away by them. But then again, we live here, we can be blown away by being here too. But one thing they do have is that at trailheads, you know, they have a metal box with maps and you open up the map, it has rules, you know, it has the trails. I was thinking it also could have ads like, you know, here's where you can go to get your mountain bike chain fixed and get equipment, and here's where you can eat, and here's where you go for coffee, and then also having the rules, you know, what's allowed and what's not allowed on our trail system.
Absolutely. Some of those strategies like that, like the ad maps and like aligning rules and being clear about them, and the know before you go messaging was part of the visitor management, destination management conversation. That's an important one to keep tabs on as we go forward, sort of getting an aligned sense of what you do when you're in Clear Creek.
Right. And you could have another bullet point about get involved. Here's where you can volunteer and help.
Exactly.
Yeah. QR codes to drive people to websites.
Absolutely. First back here and then up here.
Yeah, I'm Rick Corrigley. I'm the town administrator for Georgetown. And I've been part of the process. I haven't hit every meeting, but I tried as much as I could with our busy schedules. It's really impossible to hit everything. But I want to say this, as an administrator, planning documents are so critical for me, for the town, because it gives you a plan, it gives you a guide, it gives you something to move for, and it helps you communicate to the community, this is our direction. And so like for a comprehensive plan, that's the first thing that when we do zoning issues, I always go back to that. A special use permit, I always go back to that. We're always referencing to make sure we're on track. And so sometimes we change things, but I guess I want to say, I'm very proud to be part of the process. And I have been vocal. I mean, I've said some things that probably people don't want to hear, because I think for Georgetown, and how do we preserve Georgetown? How do we do these things? And so I've been a staunch advocate I hear these things, and I'm glad to be here, because some of these are my same feelings too. And I've communicated these things, and I don't think that we've ever had plans saying we're gonna be doing this. It's always been management plans. And so, I mean, I can say that I've been part of it, and I hear you, and I'm glad that I came tonight just to be able to hear some of your thoughts and some other people of making sure that we prioritize these things, conservation and sustainability and some of those things. But also, I guess Cindy Neely is very close to me, and she comes to my office. She makes me go on trips with her. Actually, get out the pass. She takes me on hikes so that I can see firsthand some of these places. And so I don't really have a choice. She makes sure so anyways, I feel like I'm proud of this process, because you have advocates here that are really willing to make sure that we protect our area and make it better. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
They shouldn't
No,
be
that's it.
speaking after that. But the other thing I think we need to consider is that we do have multiple private owners up in our very remote areas. And if we also need to look at what legal means we have, what zoning means we have to help protect those areas. And what I don't see in any of these is that one of the strategies is to know what our legal possibilities are, especially when we have our really fragile above the line environments. That's where I'm sticking on my sticky notes, and I haven't dragged him up to Waldorf yet, and I hope somebody does.
All right, appreciate that. Quick time check. I see that we've come to the half hour. I'm not going to cut everyone off hard, but I want to make sure that we get done what we came here to do, which is to answer any questions. Does anyone else, who else has a clarifying question on the plan?
Hi, Rick.
All right, and we can continue to answer questions as we filter out. I want to direct people again to the Clear Creek Forum. We still have our public input survey up there. It'll remain live through next week. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to say your piece, and that's the best way for us to do it, because we'll analyze all that really closely.
Can you explain clearly where there is? You say we have that public
Yes.
survey up there, so go there, and some people are thinking. okay,
Exactly.
there.
So the Clear Creek Forum, it's an easy one to Google. We can also give you the address before you leave today. Has a link to the ROMP planning process on the front page. On that page is a link to the survey, to the public input survey. It's been open. We've got a bunch of comments in on it. And we had it open earlier this summer. It was sort of a similar one. We would invite any and all comments on that. I'll personally be analyzing them and sorting through them and giving Amy sort of a report on what might need to change, what might need to be added to this plan in its finalization.
It's forum.clearcreekcounty.us.
/ROMP info if you want the exact one.
Yeah. I can write it down for you if you.
Also just Google Clear Creek ROMP too, and
Yeah,
it pops up.
It does pop up pretty high. There's nothing else that matches those search terms.
Just curious
Yeah.
if the comments that were made here tonight, if Megan's keeping track of them?
We're not taking notes on these
This was
comments.
recorded though.
Yes.
Yes.
Everything that was asked, I said. I didn't filter them.
Sure.
No, I just meant that, I just was wondering if you were taking notes on the comment.
Oh, this is recorded. It'll go on Facebook, and it's on Facebook. It'll go on YouTube. So yeah.
And then how do these questions and the comments and the answers to them then impact the outcome of the final draft of the law?
Good question.
We'll write them down. We're going to look through the recording. We're going to make sure we have all the comments. And we're going to add them to the body of comments that we got from the forum.
Can I ask if you could use a PSA through KGO radio? I'm surprised that you guys didn't use that outlet for information, getting the information out to the community. There was no PSA concerning this program, ROMP, or anything like that. Maybe the time that we have, I know that We have a volunteer from KGO here also, but just for public information and stuff like that, I expected 3 times the turnout. Unfortunately.
I can kind of handle that.
And wish.
There are magnets that are on this near the sign-in sheets, and those are ways that you can stay informed. This has been in the newsletter multiple times. It's been on all of our social medias, Instagram, Nextdoor, Facebook. We issued a press release. We've had an ad in the newspaper.
Something local that hadn't happened. That's all just.
No, I know. I'm just giving you ways that you can stay informed on the process. It's been in the newspaper. I thought it was on KGO, but I don't control the radio, so I'm not sure. But it's out there. It's been on our website. If you want information on it, I promise you can find it. I would also monitor the ROMP forum page. That's where we post the most updates, but every time there's an update, it's out there.
I think it was also circulated and socialized out to a number of the neighborhood owners associations,
Yeah.
and things like that. In other words, like where there were pockets of residents, and through Beth's very, very large email list, we kind of asked for every single line of communication that the county has, that this be pushed out on, so people are aware of it, and then on Facebook too. And you can always do better. You can always find.
Sounds like we missed KGO.
It's also been discussed a lot in the Board of County Commissioner meetings too.
Nobody pays
Okay.
attention.
Unless there's something heated, they want to be involved.
Right.
Yeah, I will say we had a lot of response earlier in the summer to our first round of this. So we've gotten a few people who don't have tonight already had their comments in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this was great tonight, and it might be timely to come on the radio, and I can offer you an hour's time. I thought that your summary at the beginning, if that were repeated over the air, with maybe a few additional comments, and we could develop a few questions to kind of lead the discussion as well. If you want to do that, I'll make that. I can make that hour available this coming Wednesday.
Wow, sure. Thank you.
And that would be within the time of the survey still being open.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the exact date that it closes down. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
just curious what the next step is, or the next phase of this project.
Mm.
And do you have funding for that and all of that good stuff?
The next phase would be to get the final draft written, which would incorporate all of the feedback that we've been receiving from this public comment period. So revisions to that draft, that's the immediate next step. Then we would have the plan adopted hopefully by the county. I would plan to then bring the final ROMP report to the other governmental entities in the county and ask those bodies to adopt them. And we would, once we see how that goes, then we would start the process to move forward on the different priorities. And that would be a collaborative process to determine how that would work. How much, do we apply for another grant to move that forward? How, that we don't have a clear vision for that quite yet.
Thank you. I have a question that came out of a joke I made a minute ago. So I just hold up your hands and don't lie. How many people here actually know the names of all 3 of their county commissioners? Oh, that's better than I thought. That's good. I thought it would be like 4.
This is a very select group.
These are the engaged ones, yeah. All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be here for a little bit. Please grab some Cheez-Its on the way out.